Hello, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar. My name is Allison Salinger, and I'm the Senior Marketing Manager here at Opaque. Joining me today are two amazing speakers. We have Rishabh Poddar, our CTO and co-founder, and Giorgio Natili, our Vice President of Engineering. They will lead our discussion on how Opaque's confidential AI platform is helping companies shape the future and innovation and responsible AI. Today, we'll cover how confidential AI plays a pivotal role in ensuring data privacy while still fostering innovation. We'll also show you some use cases on how you can gain insights without compromising sensitive data privacy, enabling responsible AI frameworks to drive innovation and decision-making. We'll have time for questions, so feel free to submit any questions using the Q&A function in the Zoom window, and we'll cover them at the end. And with that, we'll get things kicked off. Rishabh, can you give us an overview on confidential computing and responsible AI and how Opaque came to fruition?
Of course. Well, first off, thank you so much for having me, Alison. This is a pleasure, and thanks to all our attendees. Confidential computing and confidential AI is a subject that I'm deeply passionate about. It's very close to my heart. Opaque was born out of research and open source that our team conducted at the RISE lab in UC Berkeley. So back then, I was a doctoral student in the lab working with two of our co-founders, Raluca Popa and Jan Stoica, who are professors at UC Berkeley and co-founders of the company as well. We saw two trends manifesting in the world that we believed would become important 5 years down the line. On the one hand, data and AI tools at the time, this is back in 2016, 2017, were getting democratized. More and more organizations of all shapes and sizes were using these technologies, big data analytics, machine learning, precursors to what is now modern AI, to inform increasingly important business outcomes. The next barrier was, or the barrier that they were already running into, was getting access to data, getting access to more diverse data they did not currently have access to because it was locked down in silos across their ecosystem. At the same time, data privacy was becoming a first-order concern in the world. With the advent of GDPR and fast forward to today, countries across the globe, states across the US have privacy laws in their books. In the US Congress alone, we have over 100 bills around regulating AI. And these two trends are now colliding with each other. On the one hand, you need access to more data. On the other hand, data is getting more and more locked down, and justifiably so, because it's sensitive. The most valuable data is also the most sensitive. So how do you bridge this gap? How do you allow data to be used responsibly while making sure that it remains safe and protected, and that data owners retain full control and sovereignty over their own data sets? Opaque was built to solve this problem on the foundations of confidential computing. How we solve this problem and how we develop the software stack in research is to allow organizations to deploy their data and AI workloads on top of encrypted data at cloud scale. So what this means is your data remains encrypted at all times, not just at rest and in transit, but also in use when in memory during computation. And as a result, you can now deploy data and AI workloads on top of that with cryptographically verifiable privacy and compliance. So you get a guarantee that your data was safe and secure at all times. And it was only used in permissible and compliant ways. And this is really the crux of what we are enabling at Opaque with confidential AI.
Thanks, Rishabh. That's great. I love to hear your story and the whole evolution of Opaque and really how a company came to be. Giorgio, you recently joined Opaque, and I'd love to get your input about what it was that piqued your interest in coming on board, and really what set Opaque apart from other companies that you were considering.
Thanks, Alison, both for having me and for the question. So when I was exploring what to do next, I was definitely interested in AI. As everybody, right? It's the buzzword. Everybody's looking at it. But I was also trying to understand how AI can benefit billions of people, not millions. I said billions on purpose. And then I started to understand how companies are developing an enterprise solution that enables other companies that have millions and millions of users each to benefit of AI. And I discovered, between others, Opaque. And what intrigued me was the confidential aspect of it. I have an history of passion for privacy in my career. I worked at Mozilla. It was not a coincidence going to build Firefox for me. It's one of the most privacy-oriented browsers in the world. And that was making a lot of sense. But Firefox, if you think about it, it's about 65 millions of users per day. It's a huge amount of people, but it's not billions. And I thought that through Opaque and through confidential computing applied to AI, I can enable many other companies to do AI respecting privacy, preventing data to be leaked, preventing incident that cause loss of millions of dollars, not only to the companies, but also to the people that is impacted by the data loss. One example, during my career at some point, I was working at Capital One. Capital One had a serious security breach a few years ago, and there was a fine of about 89 millions that they paid. On top of the cost for the company, think about the millions of people that had the credential exposed, and they were not aware of it. So I found Opaque extremely compelling because this application of security on top of AI, this confidentiality on top of AI, was really reasoning with me from a mission standpoint, also from an impact standpoint.
That's great. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I too found Opaque's unique offering really compelling and really wanted to be part of something that would shape the future in a very unique way. So thank you for sharing that, Giorgio. I'm going to turn it back over to Rishabh. I'd love to get more insights on the Opaque solution. Rishabh, can you share some more details on what makes the Opaque platform and the technology different than other solutions that we're hearing about in the market?
Absolutely. Let's take a step back and understand what confidential computing fundamentally enables, and then come to confidential AI and what Opaque's role is in that category, how we are forging that category in collaboration with our partners, cloud providers, and other organizations in the space. So confidential computing is a hammer that allows you to keep data protected. If we take a step back and take a look at the state of the world today, as an industry, we've reached a point where we know how to encrypt data at rest. When data is stored in the cloud or on disk, it's encrypted at all times as a standard. We also know how to encrypt data in transit when data is being sent over the network between one machine and another. It's being sent over TLS, HTTPS. What we are now starting to deploy solutions for with confidential computing is the ability to keep data encrypted even in use. Right now, most organizations, when the data is being used on their machines, on their systems, it is unencrypted. And that makes it vulnerable to breaches, attacks, leaks. Confidential computing plugs this gap and allows you to keep data encrypted at all times, even when in use. When we start thinking about deploying end-to-end data and AI workloads, just using confidential computing by itself is not enough. Just keeping data encrypted in memory at all times is not enough. You need, one, an end-to-end business application that can ingest encrypted data from different sources. So you need to be able to connect your different data sources, which are encrypted using a key that is under your control. You need to be able to connect that encrypted data source into a platform. So I'll use this visual to simultaneously explain the needs for confidential AI and how Opaque enables them. You need to be able to connect those encrypted data sources into a platform where you can then deploy your jobs and workloads on top of that encrypted data without having to worry about any of the underlying security requirements. How Opaque enables this is from the perspective of a data scientist. They are able to run workloads that they are currently used to and familiar with, using tools like Jupyter notebooks or Python notebooks, frameworks like Apache Spark or machine learning libraries, and now generative AI services and agents deploying AI pipelines, they need to be able to deploy these workloads seamlessly on top of this encrypted data without having to worry about the complexities of confidential computing. They need to be able to enforce policies around how the data is used, because just keeping data is not enough. You need to be able to control who is allowed to do what with the data and for what purposes. And in the absence of policies and governance, your data is not secure from an end-to-end perspective. And then you need to be able to use that data downstream to power the rest of your pipeline and workflows. This end-to-end software ecosystem is what Opaque provides on top of confidential computing. So if we contrast Opaque's offerings with what hyperscalers provide, Google, Azure, AWS, we work very closely with all hyperscalers. The hyperscalers provide you the confidential computing infrastructure, the requisite hardware in the data centers, the software infrastructure, the virtual machines that allow you to use these hardware capabilities that confidential computing provides. What Opaque provides on top is an end-to-end turnkey business solution that allows you to deploy your data and AI workloads using that confidential computing infrastructure while abstracting all of its complexities away. You don't need specialized skill sets anymore. You don't need to devote an army of developers to build your own stack on top of confidential computing, which is complex. We abstract all of that away from the user, and we take care of that for the user. Another key aspect is, with regard to data and AI workloads, you need verifiable privacy and sovereignty. You need to be able to prove and attest that your data was only used in responsible and compliant ways. How Opaque does that is it enforces the policies and governance rules that the organization using the platform has specified and cryptographically enforces them using confidential computing within a secure environment, producing a verifiable audit trail that is signed by the hardware. That proves to you that, one, your data was kept protected at all times, and two, it was only used in permitted and compliant ways. And no one could have tampered with this audit trail, not even Opaque. You don't have to take our word for it. It is signed by the actual underlying hardware. So these two pillars is what I would say how we differentiate from and how we build upon the offerings provided by the hyperscalers, who we work very closely with.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. It's really interesting to see how all of the pieces work together, and the unique piece of how Opaque plays with the hyperscalers and all the different pieces of the platform. So that's great. So love to hear some real world use cases. So Giorgio, I'd love to hear some of those applications in use and how our customers are actually applying the Opaque platform in their day-to-day lives.
Yeah, I have a few use cases that I want to discuss with you. One, it's one of the most fascinating for me. That is what we are doing with ServiceNow. Basically, what is happening with ServiceNow is that we are securing whatever conversation that a customer is having or a customer representative is having with an LLM. Simply think about a customer representative that is helping a customer that require some wisdom or some suggestion to the LLM. And when doing this, it's using interacting with an LLM application and is naturally sending and using sensitive data, customer name, customer contract, phone number, whatever, right? Once you use this data, what happens is that you are exposing your customers to whatever risk, right? Because you never know how these data travel across the infrastructure. And even more, when they eat the LLMs, they're really eating something that parts and read all the content. So what we do, we are able to eat Opaque, having Opaque sitting in between the LLM application and the third-party LLM, and do whatever use case we want. One can be simply redacting that data, sending the data to the prompt to the LLM without any sensitive data. And when we get back the information, we pull back into the response all the sensitive information, so the customer representative or the customer itself have a clear picture of what they're talking about. But nothing is hitting the third-party LLM. Another use case, it's interacting with additional systems, maybe a database, maybe another service that is enhancing and adding additional information, additional context to the prompt that is hitting the LLM. And also in that situation, we can redact the data, we can protect the privacy of the data, or we can use that data to augment the prompt, but then keep cleaning the prompt and sending the prompt to the third LLM party. So at the end of the day, the flow with Opaque sitting in between the LLM application and the third party now is cleaning up the data, is keeping the data secure, safe, encrypted when they are in use without exposing any customer to any potential issue. In the case of a self-hosted model, you still have Opaque in between, and you see that the difference from a diagram standpoint is basically nothing, except that the LLM model, it's self-hosted. What we can do, what a customer can do, what ServiceNow can do with Opaque is hosting the LLM in a confidential computing environment. This is increasing the security posture of the customer by a level of magnitude. First of all, encrypted data with confidential computing are 5-6 magnitude faster to be manipulated and used rather than with standard cryptographic techniques. But on top of that, if the LLM is loaded in a confidential computing environment, so it's a confidential LLM, you are preventing any attack to compromise also your LLM. The confidential computing solutions that we're building are so sophisticated that as soon as there is a variation in the checksum of the disk image or any potential change to the VM, we can send the CPU, the kernel in panic mode and shut down right away the machine, preventing any attack from happening. So simply hosting the LLM through Opaque, the customer is now able to not only protect how the data get into the LLM application, and from the LLM application goes toward the LLM, but also protecting the LLM itself.
That's great. I know we also have some other use cases with risk cream. I'd love to hear about a little bit about this one.
Yes, absolutely. This is what I would say one of the simplest use case, but it's so powerful that is unbelievable. So we're applying this use case with a risk stream, where basically you can have multiple data sources, you can have multiple data sets that have a different level of privacy that get loaded into Opaque and that stay encrypted. What does it mean? This means that if you have multiple departments working on different data sets to build some business intelligence, some insight, to generate data to train another model, they can use this data without looking at the real data, but looking at a synthetic data or a redacted data, a representation of the data model that keeps the distribution. So they can build queries, they can build Python scripts, they can do whatever in an environment that is a good representation of the model that doesn't expose any single data. To give you an extreme application of this use case, imagine if one day Google and Apple want to collaborate and they want to build a model that will enhance the mobile phone experience worldwide, but they don't want and they can't because there are privacy regulations, share data. With this approach, they can, because data can stay encrypted, not visible to any other party. The keys that decrypt this data is owned by Google and Apple, and that's the secret sauce of Opaque. When you do this through Opaque, it's impossible that any party get compromised from a privacy and security standpoint, and you can have these data working together in an unencrypted way and generate insights.
I think we have one more example to share about multi-party collaboration from some of our telcos.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is an interesting use case because it has a very direct application to what can really benefit the users. And this is connected a tiny bit with what I was telling you at the beginning, right? I joined Opaque because I know that through this technology, I can benefit billions of people. That's a simple example. If you have multiple cyber threats that are potentially compromising the security of users, you can collaborate on multiple data sets with multiple cyber attack victims, cyber attack data that get mixed together through Opaque. Basically, what you do here, you can have the data being encrypted also when they are in use, and leveraging multiple data sources, getting to more accurate malware detection or data breach validation, and so on. All these data are getting used with collaboration. So basically, you are mixing multiple data sources into a single monitor that is leveraging that model through sophisticated analytics and ML architectures without compromising and exposing the data of any other party to each other.
Thanks, Giorgio. It's really interesting to see these various applications that customers across different industries are implementing, both for internal purposes with their internal customers or external purposes with the multi-party collaboration from different companies, all with different requirements of data privacy, with verifiable audit trails, all the different things that they can do. So it's fantastic. Love to see that. So appreciate you providing that context. So now that we've seen some examples of how customers are actually using it, Rishabh, I'd love to get some feedback and real results on the overall value, because now we know how they're using it. But what is the value that customers are seeing from using Opaque's confidential AI platform? Not just from the technology, but the tangible business value that customers are getting out of it.
The final value is quite simply enterprises can now move their AI projects into production much, much faster than before. Previously, as we have learned in the absence of Opaque, a majority of AI projects or data projects were blocked in the early pilot stages and experimentation and never really saw the light of day, because the data is the most valuable data, is also the most sensitive data. So as a result, enterprises were failing to be able to harness the full power and capabilities of their data set while ensuring that their risk and compliance posture was maintained at all times. Opaque fundamentally solves this problem for them. We are helping organizations move their projects into production much, much faster. As a result, they're getting much faster time to value, decreasing costs, and also reducing their risk profile, because now their sensitive data remains protected at all times. It is used in permissible ways. They can get better quality insights from it as well, because previously they would have to apply lengthy governance processes, rely on traditional data protection techniques like anonymization, data obfuscation, which not only slow down these projects considerably, but also decrease the quality of insights that you can get. All of these issues go away with Opaque. At the same time, you get the full power of the data at your disposal. You're able to get insights that you previously were not able to. So not only are you improving your security and privacy posture, but at the same time, you're increasing the quality of insights that you can get.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Rishabh. Those are all the specific questions I have for you today. But before I turn it over to Q&A, do you have any closing comments or remarks that you'd like to share? I'll start with Giorgio.
One thing that I want to share as a closing remark is that doing AI responsibly means many things. One thing that it means to me, it's keeping safe privacy and security. So keep this in mind, because whenever you are building an AI-based solution, you are exposing yourself, your users, and the world to an infinite power and to infinite risk. So do it collaboratively, doing it responsibly, and keep the privacy level high, because it's what I think will be a game changer in the next few years.
Thanks. Rishabh?
I think Giorgio summarized that very well. The only thing that perhaps I will add to that is confidential AI, and this is not just about Opaque, as a category, as an industry movement, is something that benefits all of humankind. It allows us to use data in ways to solve problems that we hadn't believed were solvable simply because of concerns around data exposure and privacy and being and using the data responsibly. Use cases that weren't possible before become possible as a result of confidential AI. And this can have profound impacts on humankind at large. From better medical research to detecting financial crime, the impact can be far-reaching. So I think confidential AI will be ubiquitous. If you are not considering it, or if you haven't, if you haven't been familiar with it, I would encourage everyone to, just read more, come talk to us if you'd like to learn more. And this is a topic that's close to our heart, so happy to geek out.
Thank you for that. So we do have a couple of questions that came through, and we have a couple of resources. So you brought up a couple great points there. So we'll flash those resources up on the screen here, and I'll ask a couple questions here, and I'll defer to. First of all, first question is, how is Gen AI changing the landscape for confidential computing?
Maybe I can take that one. It's a very, very interesting question. So on the one hand, generative AI, deploying generative AI solutions or adopting these technologies opens up new data privacy risks that you have to account for if you're training models, if you're fine-tuning models, if you're adopting models as part of RAG pipelines. You have to now consider all of the different ways in which your data can be leaked and can be breached. And you have to be able to think holistically about the entire deployment. So generative AI, on the one hand, opens up new requirements around how data needs to be protected. At the same time, it makes it easier to attack existing approaches for data protection. In our own research, for example, at Opaque, we have found that you can take anonymized data sets and just feed them into ChatGPT and ask it to de-anonymize or re-identify rows in that data set. And GPT is able to do so with the help of some publicly available auxiliary information. So the barrier to de-anonymizing or re-identifying data, the barrier for attackers has become drastically reduced. So generative AI is opening up new threat vectors as well that heretofore didn't exist. So as organizations adopt these technologies, they need to start thinking more holistically about their overall strategy with regard to how it affects the data privacy posture, and be cognizant of the new threat vectors that generative AI presents, which makes a lot of the existing approaches to protecting data obsolete.
Thank you. And that actually addressed the other question I had, that came through, which was about data masking and data anonymization becoming obsolete. So I think you addressed both of those questions in that first one. We have one final question, and is really a broad spectrum, but where do you see companies adopting confidential AI in the future? And where and how do you see them adopting in the future?
Honestly, I mean, there's a lot of low-hanging fruit right now because of this paradigm shift in AI and companies adopting AI or trying to adopt AI to inform or to deploy simple use cases as we see across our customers, from improving operations using chatbots to, in the future, deploying agents that can act autonomously and deploy software. There is a spectrum of sophistication around these use cases. Today, it's still these simple ones. Like when I'm adopting, if I want to power a RAG pipeline, I need to be able to combine data from all of these different sources. All these different sources have their own governance rules and their own data protection requirements. How do I reconcile all of that? How do I pull all of that data together and use it to power my LLM application while making sure that the data remains protected at all times? Confidential AI is an out-of-the-box solution that helps with that. In the future, as companies start deploying agents, and these agents are operating autonomously, there was a very interesting podcast that our CEO, Aaron, was on recently with Jason Clinton, the CISO of Anthropic. And they talk about how these agents will be able to spin up new infrastructure, deploy new software solutions, or jobs or tasks for taking certain actions based on data. How do you verify and how do you prove that your data remains protected in these scenarios, that these agents are acting in verified and attested ways? Confidential AI can help with that as well by giving you this proof, by giving you this auditability and this verifiability that around data lineage and use and deployment of software solutions. So I think there is a very interesting breadth of technical use cases that confidential AI enables, both today and in the future.
So the only thing I want to add at the end of this webinar that was fantastic is that there is an opportunity here for everyone to contribute to what we are doing at Opaque, joining our PAC, Product Advisory Council Group. You can find more information on our website. It's a unique opportunity not only to contribute to shape the future of confidential AI, but also to be in touch with a network of influential leaders in the field, and also to get exposed to exclusive content like the webinars that Raluca, our president, is doing, and many other very influential professors, scientists, and tech leaders are doing with us here at Opaque. So don't miss the opportunity. Fill out the form. Go on opaque.co, and underneath About Us, you will find a link for the PAC group. Learn more about what we do. Submit your application, and we will be more than happy to talk with you and jump on a call and understand how you can help us to shape the future of confidential AI.
Well, fantastic. Well, thank you both. That is all the time we have for today. I want to thank both of you, Rishabh and Giorgio, for this really insightful session. I always learn something new. I also really want to thank all of the folks who took the time out of your day today to join us. So again, thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you
so much for having us, Allison.
Yes.
Bye. Thanks.